Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We invite you to please take your seats as we begin this signing ceremony. Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour, soyez la bienvenue. Nous vous invitons à prendre vos places, s'il vous plaît. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, good morning, bonjour, salam alaikum. I am Maureen Rosita Ojong-Ebobisong, a global sports and development expert and a daughter of Africa. In the last 20 years, we have witnessed the continued evolution in the football, sports, and creative industries across the African continent. To the 14-year-old young woman I used to be 2 decades ago, now a grown woman, sports has been much more than the game, the data, and the analysis. It's been a safe space. It's been an educational tool and an opportunity for social and economic empowerment, and a platform through which myself and my peers have been mentored to become responsible citizens of the world. But this has only been possible through the efforts of leading organizations and global stakeholders like the Confederation of African Football and Danone. In the following hour, I have the honor to be taking you through diverse discussions, insights with inspiring leaders and personalities at a moment which will be cemented by the official signing of the partnership between the Confederation of African Football and Danone. As we proceed, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to share with you a few housekeeping tips. Conscious that we have a bilingual audience here in the room today, we have a few translation devices at your disposal, which you would use. I invite you to use Canal 1, if I'm correct, for the English translation, and Canal 2 for the French translation. To also ensure that we are really locked into the conversations in this morning, I will please invite you to also put your phones, please, on silence. Without further ado, and to kick off this event, we're going to invite two executives on stage who are going to give us keynotes to kick off this inspiring moment. I'm going to call on my first keynote speaker, the CEO of Danone, Mr. Antoine de Saint-Affrique. Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Distinguished guests, partners, and colleagues, dear friends. It is a true honor to stand before you today alongside the Confederation of African Football to mark what is a meaningful milestone in Danone's journey. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Véron Mozengo Omba, General Secretary of the CAF, and Mustafa Hadji, the Moroccan football legend that we all know. Over a century ago, our founder, Isaac Carasso, began selling yogurt in Spanish pharmacies to help children suffering from intestinal infections. He named his first product after his son, Danone, Little Daniel in Catalan. Just a few decades later, in 1953, Danone signed its first international franchise right here in Morocco with Central Laitière. I'm therefore proud to be here today, where so much of our international story began. 70 years on, Danone has transformed food habits, has built iconic brands, and remained steadfast in its mission to bring health through foods to as many people as possible. Our 90,000 employees continue to innovate across dairy, plant-based, water, and specialized nutrition, always guided by the evolving needs of our consumers and of our patients. This commitment to health doesn't stop at the table. It lives on the field, the court, on the track. Sports are the natural extension of our mission and an integral part on how we promote healthier lifestyles. From our long-standing partnerships with global events to our support to the Paris 24 Olympic and Paralympic Games and our recent collaboration with Carlos Alcaraz, we believe in the power of sports to energize, to unite, while supporting healthier lifestyles. And nowhere this is more relevant than here in Africa. By 2050, Africa will account for 60% of population growth, home to 2.5 billion people, 40% of whom will be under the age of 5. As a leading dairy and specialized nutrition company on the continent, present in 40 countries, we have a responsibility and an opportunity to make a difference. We will do so, obviously, by continuing to improve our product to meet local nutritional needs at every stage of life. Today, the vast majority of what we sell in Africa comes from healthy categories. And we are investing in local innovation, local sourcing and processing to strengthen food sovereignty and security across the continent. That is why I'm especially proud to announce our new partnership with the Confederation of African Football. Like Danone, the WAFCON and AFCON tournaments unite generations around shared values: community, celebration, and legacy. And we are particularly proud to reaffirm our commitment to empowering women in sports through partnership with the former, as diversity in sports is essential. When women are included and celebrated at the highest level of competition, it sends a powerful message to young girls everywhere in the world, that they belong, that their talent matters, and that the future of sports is inclusive. Our love for football runs deep. For over 20 years, the Danone Nation Cup has brought together 2.5 million children annually in a global celebration of sport and health. The partnership that we signed today, this new partnership, reflects the exact same spirit. Danone will provide nutritious dairy products to over 10,000 volunteers, 5,000 journalists, and countless officials and players. Our brands will launch special activations, and our products will be available in stadiums and fan zones, bringing quality nutrition closer to the action. I'm also very pleased to share that we will support the African Schools Program, a very powerful initiative that my colleague Christian Stammkotter will speak about shortly. Let me close by thanking our partners at CAF. We're incredibly proud to stand with you in what is a truly shared mission. Together, let's make this the beginning of something greater, where sports and nutrition come together not only to build better athletes, but to foster better lives to each and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for those powerful words that really sets the tone on the why we are here today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome our second keynote speaker, who is another leader. Please welcome on stage the Confederation of African Football General Secretary, Mr. Veron Mosengo Omba.
Good morning to everyone. If you don't mind, I will speak in French. I want just to switch in order to help the translator to shift French. Merci à tout le monde. Monsieur...
Thank you all. Mr. Antoine Saint-Afrique de Nomé. Mr. the French ambassador in Morocco, our player Mustafa Haji. I also salute the president of the Nigerian Confederation of Football, Mr. Musa. Thank you for coming. I would also like to thank my colleagues who have been here for 3 weeks now, who have been working on preparing this event that is affiliated to the AFCON. I thank you warmly. You are called the Danoners, apparently. Hello to you all. I also thank the press and you again, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the President of the Football Confederation. And we shouldn't mix this with the grants in France, but in the name of the President of the CAF, Matsepe, and his Executive Committee, I salute you all. And thank you for your presence here today. The CAF is undergoing a transformation. You know, the Confederation was presided in 2021, and I wouldn't want to dive into the details as to the past of the Confederation, but now I can tell you that rigorous rules concerning governance and transparency have been established, and today the CAF isn't concerned with football only and sparkles. It's rather concerned with youth, and it's deploying its best efforts via several programs to do so, programs that were mentioned by Mr. Antoine, notably the school programs, and we'll talk about them more into detail later on. With more than 54 associations, member associations constituting the Football Confederation, the CAF will in fact, starting 2026, invest 1 billion for each federation. We have launched the impact programs as well. And again, this 1 billion will be invested in football. Once again, rigorous norms will be followed to ensure that said amounts are invested across the concerned countries. And the CAF today is proud for these partnerships. The partnership concluded with Danone, notably our official partner for the CAN of 2025. There is the AFCON first of 2024 and the Nations Cup of 2025, which will be played in December. Danone is also our partner for the African Championship of School Football. And since we're mentioning these partnerships, I should tell you that Danone invests in these matters, and I'll be direct here. These investments subscribe into a rationale aiming at promoting health via sports first of all, but also through a good diet and nutrition. And so such partnerships between the CAF and Danone recognize the seriousness we give to football in Africa and symbolizes the trust established between us and testifies of the importance we give to education across the countries of our continent. For our youth here, by 2021, we've seen the African Football Championship, and my colleague, the director Sarah, will tell you more about these matters concerning the school program. But the gist is that we want to take care of our youth. We want to focus on them, and we want them to be busy. Somebody told me before, things are a bit odd in Africa. Do you know how to play football? Don't you? Those who do not know how to play, however, will be guided by us and oriented, and will be forming young rapporteurs also, and different staff members, arbitrators, and leaders. And we want not only to have the leaders of tomorrow, but also to create good citizens in Africa by focusing on the values of football. And we are certain that as the exclusive sponsor of the CAF, Danone will leverage the authority and the influence it has on the continent. Côte d'Ivoire participates in referential competitions, and we have beaten the records since the creation of the CAF in 1957. We've had more than 1 billion followers on TV, and we are reaching the 2 billions now. But for the first time in Brazil, we reached 10 million people. That's the country of football. And they were centered on the CAF, on the African competition. This pleases us. It pleases us to focus on new fields, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Secretary, for providing such powerful insights on the work of the Confederation of African Football and giving us even further details on why this collaboration with Danone is very relevant. Thank you, gentlemen, for those inspiring words that strengthens the purpose of this event. Without further ado, and as previously mentioned, I have the honor to drive you through what will be another inspiring moment of this ceremony. A conversation with two leaders and a very inspiring African and Moroccan legend in his own right. This conversation will further inform us on the what, the why, and the how of the collaboration between Danone and the Confederation of African Football. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome our first leader, who is a woman. She is the director of member associations of the Confederation of African Football and equally leading on the CAF African School Program. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Mukuma. Our next leader I have the pleasure to welcome is Danone's president for the Emir Zone. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Mr. Christian Stamkreter. Last but not least, as I mentioned, a very inspiring African Moroccan sports figure, a legend. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly welcome Mr. Mustafa Haji. Bonjour. Fantastic. Gentlemen, lady, thank you for being here. Before we dive into the conversation, I would like to say a few words to emphasize on the power of sports. As African giant Nelson Mandela, late Nelson Mandela, perfectly and affectionately used to say, sports has the power to inspire, to empower, and to unite communities and uplift individuals. For over 30 years, and as the CAF General Secretary mentioned, we have observed how football has been a catalyst for social change. It's helped shape communities, purposeful business strategies, and also strengthen the lives of young people. And I would like to add that this collaboration that we are witnessing today, cemented through the signing ceremony between Danone and the Confederation of African Football, is a great example of football for goals, hence the advancement of SDG 17 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I'll start with you, Christian. We heard Danone's CEO, Mr. Antoine Saint-Afrique, share the vision behind this collaboration between Danone and the Confederation of African Football, highlighting Danone's outstanding long investment in sports, including the role it played as partner of the Paris 2024 Olympics and Paralympic Games that took place in Paris last summer. Can you please tell us, Christian, why is it important for Danone to invest in sports, especially on the African continent?
So first, obviously, for us, it's a great moment, and we're very excited about, the partnership that we signed. I think we're very aligned with the vision of the CAF, that goes beyond just the tournament, but is really about the role of sport. We're very much aligned with the school program, the African school program, which you will talk about, which I think is a great way because we fundamentally believe that, the importance of health, through nutrition, but also physical activity and sport is absolutely critical. Africa is a continent that is showing immense potential, right? Is a huge population, big population growth, a very young population as well. And we are, as a company, we're rooted in Africa for more than 70 years. You know, we have great local brands, global brands with whom we're active. And from the start, we have been very much keen on really developing healthy nutrition on the continent. And that is what really drives us. And we believe that football as a sport is the #1 sport, is the sport that can impact and really drive our business also forward and our vision that we have. We're working beyond just selling products. We're very local. We work with 200,000 farmers. We're very much into really developing also the economy on the continent, because we really believe that this way, being locally rooted, we can have an impact that goes beyond.
Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you really for, highlighting the work that Danone is doing across the continent and the intended impact through this partnership. I think it's really inspiring that this is happening during the sidelines of one of Africa's very important events, which is the Women's African Cup of Nations, affectionately known as WAFCON, organized by the Confederation of African Football. And speaking about women, who are an important catalyzer of social change in our communities, Christian, can you talk to us about Danone's take on how sports as a catalyst and a social tool can be leveraged to advance girls and women empowerment?
So first, we're very, very pleased that we do the announcement here, you know, at the start of the WAFCON, right, or the Women African Cup of Nations. And we have today, you know, with us 20 of the powerful African female leaders that are going through a program which is called Empower Her, right? So we're very happy to do that. We believe that women empowerment is absolutely critical, and Danone is engaged in this for many, many years, in Africa, but also beyond. We have a program that is called EVE, you know, that is focusing on women empowerment and women leadership. And we also have an African version of it. And I had the pleasure really to be there in the African edition, you know, as a participant and as a speaker. And when you see the energy, the power and the potential, you know, we really believe that this is going to change and advance this African society even more. And we believe that also sport plays a critical role in that, you know, that women are seen, you know, and they can be in the sport, drive the sport. And I'm very happy when I go to the countries like South Africa, or I spoke with Nigeria, about seeing how much of attention and how much of momentum women's football gets on the African continent, because it's a great way, you know, kind of to integrate and unleash the potential of women on the continent even more.
Thank you very much for underlining why women are important for Danone. And in this moment, I could really not agree more. And I really want to, you know, attest to what you mentioned about Danone's EVE program, as I too am an alumni, thanks to Danone's collaboration with the French African Foundation. But before we move to the next question, we'll be showing a short video showcasing and really strengthening what Christian mentioned about Danone's engagement and footprint across the African continent.
For years, Danone has built a strong presence across Africa, becoming a key player in dairy and specialized nutrition. With strong partners, 9 factories, 3 farms, and more than 6,000 employees, the company is shaping a sustainable model. That means it's good for people and the planet. Danone supports over 200,000 farmers, most of which are smallholder farmers. The company helps them do things like improve productivity and strengthen local value chains. Not sure what that means, but it sounds important. But Danone doesn't stop there. The company also leads an essential mission, providing positive nutrition for healthier lives. Through innovative programs, it targets something called iron deficiency anemia, or IDA for short. First, Danone helps find out if there's a problem. In Gabon, just last year, more than 70,000 children were screened with a non-invasive tool to see if they had anemia. So far, in 2025, more than 55,000 children in over 10 countries in sub-Saharan Africa have already been checked for iron deficiency, thanks to a new digital tool. Danone also makes sure that its products are carefully designed with essential nutrients to help fight deficiencies and close nutrition gaps across the zone. And this year, Danone is doing something else super exciting in Africa. It's becoming an official partner of the Total Energies African Cup of Nations Morocco 2025. Because sports and nutrition, no matter how old you are both essential. Maybe that's why my dad always says, healthy body, healthy mind.
Healthy body, healthy mind. What a powerful and engaging video. A truly compelling glimpse into the shared vision behind the Confederation of African Football and Danone's collaboration that we're witnessing today. I think this video really equally underlines something important, which is the importance of evidence. You know, these images really speak to the evidence of the work that Danone is carrying out across the continent and around the world. And as we move to speak about health, nutrition, I think it's important to underline that nearly 14% of infants are born underweight. This is a fact, you know, that really drives some of the work that you're doing. And that in early life challenges, you know, we see that this gap impacts the lives of young people and it actually equally has an impact on health, learning, and economic potential. Christian, given these realities, how is Danone stepping up to play its part on the African continent?
So first, of course, one of the big challenges we see on the African continent today is malnutrition, right? And we talk about the triple burden of malnutrition because you have deficiencies, but you also have chronic diseases that come out of it, and you have a lot of children, particularly, that are undernourished. So that's something that we are trying to address with the products that we provide in line with our mission. When you look at yogurt, for example, yogurt is a very nutritional dense product, you know, that often, you know, particularly when we sell it to kids, we fortify with needed vitamins and minerals that we know, you know, are deficiencies in a country. And I think targeting that and offering that for us is really critical because we really see we can make an impact on society there. But what is even more important is that we don't just do it for, let's say, the few, you know, that are maybe on socioeconomic level A and B, but affordability for us is absolutely critical. Mm-hmm. So how can we offer our products at price point that is possible to afford them for the majority of people? Morocco here is a good example where we have a brand called Mofit. You know, it's a yogurt that is fortified with vitamins and iron that is sold at 1 dirham. You know, or we have a great program in Egypt with El Baraka, you know, where we say below 5 Egyptian pound, a product particularly in the rural area that basically offers a nutritional dense product to families, to children. Because in the end, you know, if we want to have an impact, and I think that's where you can draw the parallel with football, right? It is about impacting societies at large, and is also about impacting particularly the ones that maybe are less fortunate and that have more difficult to make ends meet, where nutrition, as much as sport, is a very important way forward.
Thank you, Christian. I think that really underlines the power of for-purpose business. Business that is not just to create profit, but also to impact communities. I have one more question for you, Christian, before I pass the floor to Sarah, and I think it really builds on the importance of contextualized approaches, which is in line with what you mentioned. We know that the African Union's Regional Nutrition Strategy 2015-2025 highlights compelling scientific evidence on the long-term consequences of undernutrition, which is aligned with what you mentioned. And it really clearly speaks on how poor nutrition is closely linked to setbacks in key socioeconomic development indicators linked to education and livelihoods. When we consider the intersections between nutrition, sports, education, and youth development, I think the urgency becomes even more evident. Nutrition gaps do not just affect health, they shape the futures of our children. Christian, as a leading industry player, how does Danone approach this issue and contribute to addressing these challenges?
Yeah, I think you also saw in the video, for one very important example and a program that is very close to my heart is a program we call Iron Up. You know, on the African continent, 40% of children under 5 years of age suffer from iron deficiency and anemia. That is a bit of a silent, you know, kind of impact on them. You know, often you see that the kids may be more tired, but many times it goes unnoticed. But what it does is, it means that both physical and cognitive development are impacted, and often something that is difficult to turn around later on in life. So we have developed this program, Iron Up, where we partner with governments, health ministers, NGOs on driving awareness, driving screening at scale, and then obviously through superior nutrition, helping to prevent iron deficiency anemia. And that's where science plays a very important role, right? Because iron is not just about putting iron in, but how do you make products that young children easily, where iron can be easily absorbed by those young children, and that really can make an impact. And that is what we do in early life nutrition with brands like Nursey and Phosphatine, where we have very, very strong programs here, and where we really have a mission of bringing down iron deficiency and anemia and giving equal opportunities to all children on the continent.
From what you're saying, I am reading the importance of working with all stakeholders, governments, private sector, intergovernmental organizations, and really driving to the next question, which will go to Sarah. I think it also shows, we've seen the powerful, rollout and impact of programs like the CAF African School School Program, helping young people gain greater access to health and educational benefits of football. And really that brings me to you, Sarah. You're the Director of Member Associations of CAF, leading on the CAF African School Program. Could you please tell us more about this amazing initiative, its relevance, and some key milestones that we have witnessed and that the audience will like to hear since 2022?
No, thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having me here and the program, because I come with the program. The program was launched in 2022, and I think now, 3 years in, we can all confidently say, looking at the numbers, that today the CAF African Schools Football Championship is the most ambitious grassroots development program. And it really responds and reflects the commitment of the CAF president, Dr. Patrice Motsepe, who is committed to invest in the youth of our boys and girls on the continent in Africa. So this is the response of the African Schools Football Championship. But at its core, the program is designed to bring football to schools. Why? I think with the program, we are challenging the notion that if you're a boy or a girl and you're dreaming of becoming the next Mustafa Hadji, you don't have to play on the streets from the morning and the evening and be discovered by a scout. Today, you can go to school and play football in school and be maybe lucky and be discovered. But more important, this program, in its ultimate goal, is to holistically develop our boys and girls on the continent. And I think the General Secretary have mentioned it just before. We want to develop our boys to become citizens of the world, to become the leaders of tomorrow, their own leaders of their own world of tomorrow. And that is really the core of this program. The program, in order to develop the program, we have used the values that football can bring. And we all know the values that football can bring: teamwork, respect, discipline, and resilience. And we have seen them throughout the last years when we were running the school championship. Seeing a girls' team losing after they have traveled from Morocco to South Africa and really building their confidence back up is something that I hadn't had the chance to learn at the age of 15, and I don't know if you had the chance to learn it. So this school program is really bringing those values closer to our boys and girls on the continent. How are we doing this? So the program is built on 3 pillars. The game, how we call it, it's a championship where we are running the programs at national level, zonal level, and continental level. Continental level is a big final, it's a festival. But we're also encouraging our member association to organize schools football in their countries. So that is at national level. And the objective of the pillar, the game, is really to nurture and develop the talent at an early age. The second pillar, which is the pillar that we are all excited about, is a pillar of capacity building and education. And I think that partnership that we are signing here today will really respond to the second pillar of capacity building and education. And what we are trying to do in that pillar, if you look at a classroom and you have 30 children in a classroom, yes, you might identify one or two Mustafa Hajis in the room. But what are you doing about the other 25 children? How do we pick those up and make sure that they're part of our ecosystem? They're part of the football ecosystem. So that's where these programs such as the Young Reporter program, the Young Referee program come in. And I always give the example, I give the example of the young girl who has natural leadership skills. Is athletic, but has no football skills. Maybe she is our next referee. We don't know. So this is the second pillar. And then the third pillar, the last pillar, is the social impact pillar, where we are trying to make sure that not only those, and we know in our continent, not only those that are in school get a chance to be introduced to the game of football. So we're going into the community and we have a real festival, football festival. So you asked me about the key achievements and the key milestones. So let me go into that because the numbers are quite impressive. So since the inception in 2022, we had 1.9 million children participating across across 48 countries on the continent since 2022. Huge platform. We had over 25,000 schools participating. And I am convinced that even though these numbers are quite impressive, we have not reached the ceiling yet. The continent has 54 countries. We need to pick up those countries that have not yet participated in the African School Championship. So I'm confident that these numbers go even further up.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I think just building on what you said, there is also the information that this collaboration with Danone is also going to support the development of educational kits for young players, and our audiences will have the opportunity to have a glimpse of what that would look like with a creative piece at the moment.
Very beautiful. You see the logo.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Sarah, once again. I think what you mentioned also underlines the fact that CAF has been really involved. You know, we're talking of all the global frameworks that exist. The Paris Summit last year that regrouped over 500 participants, but the CAF President's 10-point plan, for example, puts football at the center of education and development efforts across Africa, working with member associations, the African Union, and partners like Danone. And at the heart of these efforts are athletes, legends, emblematic figures that continue to inspire us. I am really honored to pass the floor to an inspiring African-Moroccan football legend, educator and coach, Mustafa Haji. Mustafa, merci d'être là aujourd'hui.
Thank you for being here today. You're an inspiring figure of the African sports, a Moroccan, an African that is committed. We've heard Christian and Sarah tell us about the link between sports, education, nutrition and health. You, as a former athlete and as a coach, what could you tell us on the impacts of nutrition on performance and the well-being of athletes, especially the young generation of African talents? Good morning all, it's a pleasure to be here with you. I would like to thank Danone for having given me this opportunity and to be amongst you and talk about nutrition. Nutrition in my field of work, my profession, between quotes, my vocation, is highly important. It's essential. And of course, to be a high-level athlete, you need proteins, vitamins, and so on. Danone takes part in this nutrition journey in a sense that allows athletes, high-level ones especially, to reach their objectives and work on the long terms. We're speaking of years here, because a football player isn't active for 10 years only. It's an education that spans over longer, and the Director General of the CAN talked about this. And football here, well, you know, when you want to be a professional in this field, you need to be educated, follow your training, and it's a daily matter. It's doesn't suffice to have talent. We do not realize this. There are millions of football players, and 5% only perhaps succeed at the international scale. And nutrition, once again, is part of the essential factors that determine the success of a footballer in his or her career. And when there are deficiencies, of course, that leads to disease, and many things are impacted when it comes to our health. I've known Danone since I was 10 years old, so it's been 45 years old now. 45 years now, and I know Danone's been involved in sports, and when I was playing in France, I've seen that the shirts we wore bore the logo of Danone, and this shows you the span of the impact Danone has been for a long time now, part of the support dedicated to sports at the high level. There is the Danone Cup for children, and my children themselves participated in the Danone Cup, and I have friends who made their children participate. You can see how Danone Cup allowed many children to realize their dreams. Thank you very much, Mustafa, for your commitment and for having shared your experience.
Insightful exchange, which leads us to one of the important... Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Again, this leads us to one of the, I would say, awaited moments of this morning, which is the official signing ceremony. But before we move on to this phase of our events, we will call and we're going to project a video that is going to showcase and further highlight the collaboration around AFCON, WAFCON, and the African School Games, programs between Danone and the Confederation of African Football.
It never begins on the pitch, it begins long before. The source of vitality that becomes a sprint down the wing. The source of health that becomes a last-minute defense. The source of power that becomes the game-winning goal. Before the passion is seen by the world, it must be fueled. Danone is partnering with CAF to promote health through nutrition at all stages of life across the continent. A commitment to the health of the game and its people. One goal, one health.
Inspiring. How inspiring. How inspiring. A true testament to the importance of collective action and what we're going to be seeing in the coming years as a fruit and product of this collaboration between Danone and the Confederation of African Football. I think the previous panel really highlighted what role our emblematic African legends and football legends will be playing. They're going to be accompanying these efforts on the ground and supporting the scaling of impact of this partnership between Danone and the Confederation of African Football. We are going to be calling on stage at this very moment the different leaders who will commemorate this moment and will be signing this partnership. I would like to call upon Danone's CEO, I would also like to call upon the Confederation of African Football's General Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, as previously mentioned, this partnership is going to cement and put forward the framework under which both organizations will be driving impactful initiatives across the African continent. Perfect example of the power and impact of collective action. Thank you. In proper African style, we're going to mark this moment equally with the exchange of a few gifts. We're going to come for the pictures just in a moment. Fantastic. To commemorate this moment and immortalize this moment for future generations to see, we're going to have a few pictures taken. And on stage, we would like to call on Danone's president of the EMEA region, Christian, to please join the stage for this picture. The commercial director of the Confederation of African Football, Hassan El-Kama. I would also like to call upon Mr. Hervé Barrel, the Director General of Danone in Morocco. I would also like to call upon the President of the Federation of Football of Morocco, Nigeria and Morocco, please. Please, we're going to call on Mustafa to join them, a legend. Please ask the General Secretary and the CEO of Danone to stay on stage. And Christian not so far, and Hervé. Yes. Picture. Please solidify this moment with a handshake. Fantastic. Please, Christian and Hervé, I'll invite you to join them for another picture. I would say if you could just move to the other side. So, yes, exactly. So it's balanced. Fantastic. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. as we conclude what has been an insightful and inspiring partnership signing ceremony, I would like to thank our guests, our audiences, for being here today, for sharing this special moment with us, and recognize all those who came here from afar to be part of this historic moment. I would use this opportunity also to recognize the presence of all the dignitaries and CAF member association presidents and collaborators here. I'll also invite the members of the press who I see are moving already on my left. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the partnership signing ceremony of Danone and the Confederation of African Football. Thank you very much.